The wind howls over the jagged cliffs of the Pryor Mountains. A lone stallion stands silhouetted against a crimson sunset, his mane whipping like fire in the cold air. His eyes are fierce, unbroken. These are not just horses. They are living relics of history, the last beating hearts of a wild America that refuses to bow. But their story is one of survival, rebellion, and a fight against time itself. For centuries, they have roamed the untamed borderlands of Montana and Wyoming, descendants of Spanish steeds brought to this land in the age of conquistadors. They've survived brutal winters, ruthless roundups, and the endless push of man's expansion. Today, they stand at the edge once again, caught between freedom and extinction. This is the story of the Pryor Mountain Mustang, and why their fight is our fight. From ancient bloodlines to modern battles for their very survival, you're about to step into a world where history still gallops free. And by the time this journey ends, you'll understand why these horses aren't just a part of the American West. They are its very soul. Number 1. Origins of a legend. The Pryor Mountain Mustang story begins long before America was even a dream. Their bloodlines trace back to the 1500s, when Spanish explorers brought Iberian horses to the New World. These were not ordinary horses. They were the product of centuries of selective breeding, prized for their stamina, agility, and spirit. Over time, some escaped or were traded to indigenous tribes, becoming integral to native life and culture. The ancestors of the Pryor herd roamed vast, open ranges, evolving to thrive in harsh environments. Over generations, they adapted to the rocky, arid terrain, developing remarkable endurance and a resilience unmatched by domestic breeds. Their genetics remained surprisingly pure, untouched by modern horse breeding for centuries. By the time settlers and ranchers arrived in the West, these horses were already legends, symbols of freedom and untamed beauty. But their isolation in the Pryor Mountains, on the Montana-Wyoming border, would become both their salvation and their greatest challenge. Here, in a rugged wilderness carved by wind and stone, the Mustang's legacy would endure against all odds. Number 2. The Pryor Mountain Sanctuary. The Pryor Mountains are not a gentle home. This remote region straddles Montana and Wyoming, a land of towering limestone cliffs, deep canyons, and sparse vegetation. Winters here are brutal. Snowdrifts can bury the valleys, and icy winds whip across the ridges with unrelenting force. Summers are scorching, water is scarce, and the land offers no easy life. Yet this isolation is precisely what preserved the Pryor Mustangs. For centuries, the steep slopes and hidden valleys acted like a natural fortress, keeping outsiders and genetic dilution at bay. Here, the horses developed unique adaptations, from their sure-footed climb over rocky slopes to their uncanny sense of direction in vast, open spaces. In the late 1960s, when the herd faced the threat of eradication, the very geography that kept them safe became a rallying point for conservationists. This was not just wild land. It was a living time capsule, holding a direct link to the horses of the Spanish colonial era. Today, the Pryor Mountain Wild Horse Range, America's first public wild horse range, stands as a sanctuary where the horses roam free, their silhouettes etched against a sky that still feels as ancient as the land itself. Number 3. Primitive beauty and genetics. Stand before a Pryor Mountain Mustang, and you'll notice immediately they're different. Compact yet muscular, their build is a testament to survival in a rugged, resource-scarce environment. Their heads often have a distinctive Roman nose, a hallmark of their Iberian ancestry. Many display primitive markings, zebra-like stripes on their legs, a dark dorsal stripe running down their back, and even subtle ear-tip coloring known as frosting. Their coats range from earthy bays and chestnuts to striking duns, grullos, and roans, colors that blend perfectly with the rocky landscape. These traits aren't just beautiful, they're rare in modern horses, preserved through centuries of isolation. Genetic studies confirm their uniqueness, revealing a strong connection to the colonial Spanish horse, a breed considered the foundation stock of horses in the Americas. Unlike most wild herds, which have mixed heavily with domestic breeds, the Pryor Mustangs remain a nearly untouched genetic treasure. To see one in the wild is to see history alive. Every muscle, every step, carries the weight of centuries. Their beauty isn't polished. It's carved by wind, forged in stone, and burnished by time. They are, quite literally, the embodiment of a living legend. Number 4. Survival against all odds. Life in the Pryor Mountains is a test of will. Droughts parch the land, turning the sparse grass brittle and lifeless. Predators like mountain lions stalk the young and the weak. Winter storms batter the herds with freezing winds, and snow locks away food under icy crusts. Yet, year after year, the Mustangs endure. Their survival is no accident. Over centuries, only the strongest and most adaptable survived to pass on their genes. They learned to find hidden water sources in the driest months, to shelter in narrow canyons during blizzards, and to navigate sheer cliffs with the balance of a mountain goat. Roundups have posed another deadly threat. In the mid-20th century, wild horse populations across America were driven to the brink by government culling and private Mustangers. The Pryor herd was no exception, small in number and vulnerable to total eradication. But somehow, they held on. Each generation carries in its blood the memory of survival, of standing against forces far greater than themselves. In their eyes, you see not just the wild spirit of a horse, but the defiance of an entire history refusing to fade. Number 5. The battle for protection. The late 1960s brought the Pryor Mountain Mustang to the edge of annihilation. Local ranchers saw them as competition for grazing land. The Bureau of Land Management, BLM, operating under outdated policies, planned to remove them entirely. Enter a wave of public outrage. Advocates, journalists, and ordinary citizens rallied to save the herd. The turning point came when Velma Johnston, better known as Wild Horse Annie, brought national attention to their plight. Her activism, combined with the growing awareness of America's vanishing wild horses, sparked a movement that reached Congress. In 1968, the Pryor Mountain Wild Horse Range was established, the first federally protected range dedicated to wild horses in the United States. This victory was not just for the Pryor herd, but for wild horses everywhere, marking the beginning of a nationwide shift in how America viewed its free-roaming equines. But this battle left scars. The herd remained small, and every foal born was a precious lifeline for the future. It was a reminder that even when the fight is won, the survival of the wild depends on constant vigilance and public will. Number 6. Wild, but not forgotten. The Pryor Mustangs may be untamed, but they are far from forgotten. Their story has inspired generations of photographers, filmmakers, and writers. Local communities have become their unofficial guardians, watching over them from a respectful distance. Rangers and volunteers track the herds, noting births, injuries, and shifting social dynamics. Each stallion and mare is known by name: Cloud, Blaze, Dove, becoming characters in a real-life epic that unfolds across the mountains. Visitors travel from around the world to catch a glimpse of them. Some wait for days in the biting cold, scanning the ridgelines for that first flash of movement. And when it happens, when a band of Mustangs crests a hill, their manes flying, it's a sight that stays with you forever. The balance is delicate. They remain wild because humans keep their distance, yet their very survival depends on human advocacy. It's a paradox that defines the modern wild horse experience: cherished yet vulnerable, free yet protected. Number 7. The Mustang spirit. The Mustang is more than muscle and bone. It's a living symbol. In their eyes, people see the raw defiance of the American West. They embody freedom, resilience, and the refusal to be broken. In the Pryor Mountains, this spirit is magnified. Watching a stallion defend his band from a rival is like witnessing a battle from centuries past. Every kick, every snort, every dust cloud stirred under pounding hooves is a declaration: we are still here. Culturally, the Mustang's image has been woven into America's identity, from Native American oral histories to cowboy ballads and Hollywood westerns. They have been painted as warriors, companions, and icons of the frontier. But the Mustang spirit is not just nostalgia, it's a living challenge. It asks, how much do we value the wild? Are we willing to fight for something simply because it's beautiful and free? In that question lies the true power of these horses and why their story still matters. So number 8. Modern threats and controversies. The 21st century has brought new dangers: habitat loss from land development, disputes over grazing rights, and the BLM's population control measures have sparked fierce debate. Some argue that the herds overgraze and threaten ecosystems. Others say the real threat comes from the encroachment of cattle and industry. Climate change adds another layer of uncertainty. Shifts in weather patterns can mean longer droughts, harsher winters, and less food. For a small, isolated population like the Pryor herd, every environmental shift is magnified. Then there's the politics. Management plans often call for roundups, removing horses to keep populations in check. Critics argue this disrupts the herd's social structure and chips away at its wildness. These controversies are not black and white. They force us to grapple with difficult questions about conservation, land use, and the definition of wild. What's clear is that without active protection, the Mustang's future hangs in the balance, just as it did decades ago. Number 9. Adoption and connection. Not all Pryor Mustangs remain in the wild. Through carefully managed adoption programs, some are brought into human care, beginning a new chapter in their lives. Adoption is not easy, for horse or human. These Mustangs are born with a deep instinct for self-reliance. Earning their trust takes patience, skill, and respect. But when that trust is gained, the bond is unlike any other. Stories abound of once wild horses becoming loyal partners in ranch work, trail riding, or even therapy programs. Their intelligence, stamina, and sensitivity make them extraordinary companions for those who understand them. These adoptions also serve a larger purpose. They connect people directly to the wild. Every adopter becomes an ambassador for the herd, carrying its story into communities far beyond the Pryor Mountains. In this way, each adopted Mustang becomes a living bridge between two worlds, wild and domestic, past and present. Number 10. legacy in motion. The Pryor Mountain Mustang is not just a relic, it's a living legacy. Each hoof print, pressed into the earth, is a continuation of a story that began centuries ago on another continent. Their survival reminds us that history is not confined to books or museums. It lives in the wind-swept ridges, in the pounding of hooves, in the wild defiance of a stallion guarding his band. The future of the herd is uncertain, but it is also unwritten. Whether they continue to roam free depends on choices made today by lawmakers, by advocates, by all of us who feel the pull of the untamed. To stand in their presence is to stand in the current of history itself. And if you listen closely, you might just hear what the wind has been carrying for centuries, a promise that as long as the Pryor Mountain Mustang runs, a piece of America will always be wild.